Chris Myers, Orlando Fly Casting Lesson. In today's video, we're going to talk about how you can improve the size of your fly casting loops. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to talk about how you can tighten up those fly casting loops. What is the little secret that makes it look so easy for some while you may be struggling with your loop control and distance? If you're going to be in the Central Florida, Orlando area, you can come see me for a one-on-one fly casting tune-up or tutorial. And if you don't, you can send me your fly casting videos and I will give you a professional casting instructor's analysis of your cast. Narrow or tight fly casting loops may not be something you need in every situation, but in most saltwater fly fishing and in distance and accuracy fishing, they certainly come in handy and are something that you should be able to do. If you've been trying it and it's not working, the good chance is you're trying way too hard and getting a lot less results. It's one of the hardest things for me to teach. It's one of the hardest things I find my students have to master. But once you figure out the little flip at the end of each stroke, this casting becomes effortless. And the first thing you want people to see when they're watching you is, man, that person isn't even trying. Because the secret is going to be, as we lift this off the water, we're going to do it nice and smooth and gentle as the water is trying to hold this line down. So our very first lift, we've got to be sure we're not ruining the first back cast, which puts us behind the 8-ball, and then we're trying to play catch up after that. If we make the first backstroke good, then we can make a good forward stroke. But what I want you to imagine as you're making that is that right here behind you, we just built a wall. And what would it feel like if we're going to take this line, we're going to smoothly lift it off the water, and at the end, I'm going to flip that over that wall behind us. I'm going to lift, 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 flip. And that flip is an upward flip. If we're pulling up, we flip up, the line goes up. Number one issue people run into that can't cast consistent, narrow, accurate loops is their back casts end up going down. So the cast comes up, 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 down. Once I've cast down, then I have to come back over and around in a curve. And in fly casting, we should and want to be working in straight line paths if we're going to be casting narrow loops. The little flip I'm going to do is a subtle little gentle flip, and that's when I'm going to use my wrist. So I'm using no wrist, no wrist, no wrist, little flip. If I do that again, no wrist, no wrist, no wrist, little flip. Now we're going to freeze in this position. However much you flipped it, as long as it went up, you're going to freeze in that position. And then I'm going to pull forward, pull forward, pull forward, snap that gap back up, and I make that same little flip in the front. It should take the exact same speed, power, and effort to unroll 30 feet of line that way as it does this way. It takes the same speed, power, effort to unroll 50 feet of line that way as it does this way. So our casting should always be equal on both sides. We shouldn't have a cast that goes gentle and then hard on the front, or opposite. And we definitely don't want casts that are going as hard as we can on both. But if you're struggling to get those distances and the accuracy you want, there's a good chance you don't have those narrow loops, and there's a very good chance it's because your rod is doing something like this. So it's going around in a half a circle, and now I don't have those narrow loops. I have big wide open loops, which will sometimes allow the line to straighten out. It doesn't shoot very much line out if I want to increase my distance, and it definitely isn't very good for accuracy. But you can slap 50, maybe even more feet of line out doing that until the wind starts blowing a little bit, and then everything gets crushed. So as we're doing this, think of something that you can equate this to, something that you're already familiar with, or a feeling of doing something you've done in the past. So there's a couple that I use for my casting students. And one is, imagine if this was a big long shovel. It wasn't a very big shovel, but here's my shovel, and we're gonna use two hands on that shovel, I'm gonna scoop up some dirt. I'm gonna toss that dirt over that wall back there. Well, if I scooped up my dirt and I came super fast all the way through, some of that dirt's flying off over there, some came over here, a little bit probably went over the wall. Now if I do the opposite, which rarely isn't the case with most fly casters, but if we did the opposite, we just came up and did that, it just flew into the wall. It certainly didn't flip over the wall. I'm sure most people, given this long shovel with a little head on it, could scoop up some dirt and then come up, flip that dirt over the wall. Up, flip your dirt over the wall. Over the wall. So the final motion is up. The final motion travels up. There isn't up, down. And even though we're pointing in basically the same spot here, you got two different results. One result went up, I'm pointing right there. The other result went down, I'm pointing right there. The line went down. So we're not so concerned about where my rod is pointing. It's the path my rod took to get to the end of that stroke and how fast it was going at the end of that stroke. So we're gonna go much faster at the end. Slow, speed up, flip. Slow, flip. If I gave everybody a little penny and I put it on your thumb and I wanted you to flip it over that wall, you'd have to flip your thumb going up, it would go up over there. You would never bring your hand all the way up, point your thumb down and flip it down. Many fly casters end up bringing the rod up, point and flip down, and their thumb is parallel to the ground, their rod is parallel, sometimes pointing down into the ground, and so goes the cast down into the ground. Then, upon recommendation to make the back cast higher, oftentimes it ends up with a higher cast, the same cast higher above the ground by lifting their hand up. So it come up, but still the rod is parallel. There's a giant gap between the butt and my forearm. My thumb is parallel to the ground, so if I took my penny, went up, flipped it down like this, my thumb was flat. Never flipping anything over the wall if I'm always flinging down. And the only way I think you're going to be able to fix that is either A, watch yourself on video, or even simpler is to turn around and see where these casts are going. See if I'm taking it, follow my tip. If I use my eyes to tell this tip what to do and where to go, up, flip it up, it goes up. If I just face this way and go up, did that go up? I don't know if that was awesome, horrible, somewhere in between. Should I change it a lot, change it a little, leave it the same? If you're not looking, if you don't see what your cast looks like, and if you don't have an instructor there telling you you're on your own, how do you know what the result was back here? If you have a poor result back here, it makes it much more difficult to get a good result in the front. Now, once we have gotten that flip going back, then we're going to pause, allow the line to straighten. Then I'm going to pull forward, make that same gentle little snap. So when I come up over the top here, if you notice I'm just going up, baby little whisper flip. You don't hear the rod moving. Up, flip. Try to do this as gentle and effortless as you can, because that way if you get excited if you see some fish, you're not going into blackout zone with your arm coming out of your socket. We're gonna come up, flip it up. Now from here, I would come forward, flip it out. So my stopping point in the front is well above my head, but it's a little bit lower than the stopping point I had up here. I like to think of my rod traveling back and forth in this magical yellow track in the sky, which I have right here. My rod comes up, clicks into the track, flips going up, the line straightens, I come out, flicks going forward. Then if I'm going to fish, I follow through. The casts only made from 1 to 2. So when we make false casts, we're keeping it back and forth in the air. It's only going back and forth in that track. We're never stopping down here at waist level making false casts. So why would we want to stop at waist level when we're making the delivery and expect the same result? If I'm making perfectly good false cast, false cast. Okay, I know exactly where I want to put it. I want to put it right there. Why would I want to stop in a different spot and ruin that beautiful loop that I had on my delivery? Before I worry about carrying multiple strokes back and forth in the air, I would first practice and become proficient at lifting it up once, making one backstroke, one forward stroke, one follow through. Until we can do that, trying to keep it back and forth on multiple strokes adds another layer of confusion that we don't need, and is going to take away from the ability to concentrate on learning a perfect basic stroke. So start off with just one backstroke, one forward stroke. When I'm fishing, rarely do I make 3 or 4 backstrokes. There really isn't a need to do that unless I'm trying to cast a super long way, but if we're using rods that we're intending on casting 75 plus feet, we still should be able to do that with 2 backstrokes, 3 at the most. If it's taking you longer than that, A, your loops probably aren't very efficient, or B, you're just waving it back and forth in the air and not really changing anything. And it gives it more opportunity for something bad to happen or the fish to see us and get away. So once I'm proficient with up, over, down, then we can start keeping it up in the air. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. We want to be careful of falling in the trap of going 1, 2, 1, 2.5. Now I just fell in a big pile halfway to where my fly is. I have all this slack line. It didn't go out as far, and now I have to strip all that slack out of there to get going again. But that is what happens if we go past the spot where that cast is actually being made and go halfway into our follow through. The most common reason I see people do that is because they make their false cast in this kind of plane where they go low in the back, high in the front, and then to try to get it to the fish. If I didn't catch on the tree back there, casting so low, so they go low in the back, high in the front, low in the back, high in the front, and they end up down here, and then fly comes way up over your head and around in a giant rainbow path and lands in a pile. If we stop going out, that thing goes out with very little effort. We want to use as little effort as possible, a light grip as possible, make my rod as quiet as possible, subtle little flips. Try that on your casting and see if your loops improve. Hopefully this video helped tune up your fly fishing cast. If you're looking for more tips on fly casting, or if you're having a problem you can't seem to figure out the answer, you can look at my common fly casting issues playlist right here.